Okay.
One was mocking
Unpack it, baby. I'm mad about it.
it and making fun of it. As far as I saw, nobody was really dissecting it and breaking down exactly why she was so egregiously wrong. So come join me in debunking the male loser epidemic. Because who else better equipped to talk about men's issues than two stupid blonde bimbos? Hold on one second. 3 stupid blonde bimbos. Sorry. I felt left out. All right, let's go. Wait.
I don't have a blonde thing I can put on. Damn it.
I need my gamer fuel. See? I do drink it. That one's for you, Tectone.
It's a major problem. And you know, Speaker Johnson has been talking about those maybe deadbeat folks that are on Medicaid, and maybe some of those folks are the stay-at-home sons. We don't know. But I'll tell you this, leave it to Gen Z to rebrand laziness and social awkwardness as something cutesy, like a stay-at-home son. But Laura, I gotta tell you, this is also a big problem when it comes to, I think, declining birth rates, people not getting married and having children. You know, that's a big problem. They blame it on women. Well, look at what young women have to choose from.
Are we blaming it on women, or are we blaming it on very specific, like the women are blaming it very specifically on like the not social safety nets that just, the social safety nets that just don't fucking exist. Let's face it. Like not everyone blames it on everybody. That's fair. It is everyone's fault and no one's fault, therefore, I guess. I don't know. It's just everyone's fault. It's just, oh my god. It's scary.
You know, that's a big problem. They blame it on women. Well, look at what young women have to choose from. The pickings are slim. Yes, we might have a feminism problem in America, but it's the feminization of men. There are a lot of men that want to get married. They want to have kids. They want to have stable families. But there are a lot of young men out there who want to live in mama's basement and order DoorDash. And that's why we have declining birth rates and a lot of other problems in society. It's time to go out, get a job, breathe the fresh air, meet people in real life. Let's just get back to basics.
So first of all, this stay-at-home son thing is not a real thing. It was a random throwaway, self-deprecating joke some contestant on Jeopardy said. One f***ing guy. Because I guess there's nothing else important going on that they could cover on the news. They literally made this into a fake phenomena so they can on young men. Meanwhile, Democrats are spending millions of dollars trying to win back young men. Oh no, the young men are leaving us in droves. How do we get them back? Don't worry, I got this. Hey, you fat, lazy, Cheeto dust-covered slobs. You. Nice. Thanks. I love you. I love you too.
Wow.
Young men living home with their parents.
That went away.
Increasing? Yes. Is it because they're lazy bums and just want to order DoorDash all day? No. And also, they're not paying for DoorDash, Tommy. They're financing it. Come on. Get with the times.
There are a lot of young men out there who want to live in mama's basement and order DoorDash. And that's why we have declining birth rates. It's time to go out, get a job, breathe the fresh air.
Even apartments cost a lot of money right now. Like just renting an apartment. Do you want to stay with and live with your parents or whatever and maybe not pay rent or pay very little rent? Because I know some people are like, you have to pay rent after like you're 18 or whatever. Pay reasonable rent. Or do you want to move out into an apartment that either is going to take the majority of your paycheck to just afford, or you move in with a bunch of strangers and you all have to cohabitate in this apartment? T'Challa. Quit meowing at me. Okay, sorry, my cat's like, come on.
And that's why we have declining birth rates. It's time to go out, get a job, breathe the fresh air.
Have either of you tried applying for a job as a young man recently? Or tried buying a house on the salary of one of these young men? Have you experienced the dating market, been on the dating sites as a young man? No? Interesting, okay. Just wondering. Listen, I know the average age of a Fox News viewer is like 70 nowadays and you need to pander to them, but Tommy, you're like 2 years younger than me. You know this isn't true. Why are you talking like this? Why are you talking like a f***ing boomer? I'm sorry, I have no other word for this.
Maybe she does think it's true because she's just, you know, being fed very specific information.
But I hate this like generational picture. I was born in the wrong generation. I'm not like those other young people. And you know what? She's not.
No, I was not born in the wrong generation because if I was, I wouldn't be able to do this shit to get money. Like, not only that, I do not dream of labor, alright? I like my internet currently where it is for the most part. I say for the most part because I very much curate my little spaces and I spend a lot of time on manga sites and AO3. But, like, you know, I like all my creature comforts that currently exist in this time frame. So I was not born in the wrong fucking generation. Miss me with that shit.
I was born in the wrong generation. I'm not like those other young people. And you know what? She's not like those other young people. Not all young people can afford a nice nose job and lip filler and get a cushy job on Fox News based entirely on merit, I'm sure. The main problem with this brain-dead boomer-ass tape is not only is it cringe, but it's completely divorced from reality. This slot is specifically designed for people who paid like $5 for a f***ing house. Listen, not all boomers, okay? My parents are boomers. They are lovely people. A lot of you guys are boomers. But when the baby boomer generation sends its people, it is not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're sending people who have lots of problems. They're bringing the housing crisis. They're bringing wage stagnation. They're falling for AI-generated photos on Facebook. But some, I assume, are good people. But my God, I truly believe they do not understand.
They're falling for the, I'm a lonely 20-something girl and you seem to have a lot of money that would really help me. Falling for that shit.
Facebook. But some, I assume, are good people. But my God, I truly believe they do not understand how good they had it. They could support a family on a single income. A single income from a job that didn't require a college degree. Their leaders didn't prostitute away their economic future for some cheap plastic shit from China. They inherited the greatest economy known to man, and they pretend it's a paradise that they earned. I just don't understand, like, why don't boomers and spiritual boomers like Tommy Lauren see people struggling and go, wow, I wish I could fix this. They should have it better than I have. You wonder why so?
Because they don't understand that their paradise economy or whatever was built on the backs of their parents and grandparents, and that they did that so they could have that paradise. And then instead of being like, oh, let's pay it forward, they were like, well, you should have to earn all the stuff that I earned. You didn't earn shit. That's not true. You did earn some stuff. But still, like, you didn't earn how great the prices for shit was and that kind of stuff. You were very privileged with a lot of things. And you go, kids nowadays just have it so easy. How do we have it easy? How? Explain to me. We can't afford to live half the time. Like, our middle class is disappearing at a rate that is insane. Like, and our middle class can't afford the things that yours could. It is so wild to me. It's like they're literally not... They're very narrow-sighted, I feel. Like, they have no concept of, like, zooming out and looking at the whole picture. And then when you try to bring it up to them and you try to explain stuff to them, they just don't understand. And it's like, I don't know how to force you to understand this, because it doesn't matter if I change the way I explain it to you and I give you visuals and stuff. You just don't understand it. I don't understand.
Many millennials and zoomers don't want kids. I want to make the world a better place for my children. I want to make the world a better place for my children. Ugh. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you spoiled brat. Children. Not happening.
Well, look at what young women have to choose from. The pickings are slim. Yes, we might have a feminism problem in America, but it's the feminization of men.
Young men are becoming lazy because they're becoming feminized. So they're becoming lazy because they act more like women? What did she mean by this, chat? I know there's like a decrease in testosterone or something happening, but men are moving right-wing all over the world. Does that correlate with the feminization? Or, I mean, there are suspiciously a lot of far-right femboys, so maybe. But here's the thing, man. Jesus. There is absolutely no evidence that young women want to start families more than young men. None. In fact, all the data says the exact opposite. According to Pew Research, 64% of women younger than 50 say they just don't want to have children. No reason, they just don't want them. First, 50% of men say the same. Another study by Archbridge Institute shows the same. 63% of women without children said they have no desire to have a child, while only 50% of men said the same. For men, the most commonly cited factor was personal finance, but among women, the strongest reason not to have a child was their desire to maintain their personal independence.
Because in a society, who is expected to drop everything and change everything, but also do all of the work when it comes to children? Like, no offense, but it's very much like, oh, you as a woman used to go through, I'm so sorry, basically the horrors of pregnancy and childbirth. Look it up, okay? A lot of things change. Like, is it a miracle? I don't know. That's your decision. But a lot of stuff happens, okay? Just maybe don't look it up, but or also do. Like childbirth, pregnancy, and stuff like that. And then, almost immediately, you have to now immediately start taking care of the child because it can't function by itself. And then also do, like, expected to, you know, keep up with, like, housework to a degree, even if the housework is only, like, child-related housework. Like, your body just basically turned inside out for a minute. You are in, like, a lot of pain. Your organs aren't stabilized yet, and you're immediately expected to just hurry up and get onto it. Like, and I'm not saying that is everyone's experience, okay? Because there are people that have very, you know, good relationships and a very strong support system and all this other stuff. But that's in society's mind how it should be. Support systems, man, like.
Basically, they don't want to give up their brunch and mimosas. They've been ass blasted with propaganda their whole lives, telling them their lives will be ruined, their bodies will be ruined, have fun again, they'll be miserable forever if they have children. And as someone who has had children, highly recommend would do it again. But yes, this idea that men are the ones primarily responsible for low birth rates is laughable. We're laughing over here. But honestly, it's not really women or men's fault. There are a lot of factors that play into this. But Tommy, I really gotta ask, is it men or is it you?
This is gonna be the summer of canceling boys. All of my friends are all of my friends are successful. All of my friends have something going on. Almost every single one of them have an issue with men. But if all of these women, including myself, are having issues, then I have to think, it might not be us. It might be you. It is not just the guys in Los Angeles, Nashville, Dallas, and they're not any better in the Midwest. They, quite frankly, I think they're trash all over this country.
My friends are successful. Men don't give a shit about that. They'd marry a Walmart cashier if she was nice to them.
I think men between the ages of 20 and 30 are not ready, in most cases, for marriage, are usually not ready to be husbands and fathers.
That's a cultural issue. So, okay.
No, I would actually, back to your point, I think it's a biological thing.
So let me...
Maybe it's societal expectations and therefore a cultural issue. I'm not gonna say I haven't met people that are like, I'm a guy and I should be with multiple women at once, blah, blah, blah. It's extremely rare that I have met someone like that, but I have met someone like that, and I'm just like, okay, well, you know, I hope everyone involved in you is happy with the arrangement. I don't fucking know. Like, it's none of my business, really. You know, whatever. But, like... I don't want to die! What do you think marriage is? Like, just like... Support each other together. What do you think it is?
Let me get this straight. Men are all trash and won't commit and won't leave mommy's basement, and they're destroying the birth rates. But also young men are biologically incapable of commitment and being parents. What? But wait, there's more. She also believes women don't have to bring anything to the table. And as a woman, I want
a strong man who is a protector and a provider that will go to war if need be, that will protect me, protect my family, make money. But I don't think a man needs to get something out of it to be a manly man, a protector and a provider.
What? Like, she might be making the statement of, like, I shouldn't have to work after I get married, or some shit like that. And that is a conversation that you need to have with, like, the person that your significant other, basically. Because, like, can you even afford to be a one-income household? Most people in this country cannot. The grand majority cannot afford that, actually. But, like, that is, sure, okay, whatever. You can be a trad wife if that's what you want, I guess.
Was für ein Müllerbastard.
You know, whatever. That's up to you and the
I will
person that
find
you're
my family.
dating, I suppose. But, you know, I think bare minimum what they should get out of it is, you know, someone who is... My cat's freaking out. Who is, like, you know, gonna have your back, who's gonna support you emotionally, who's gonna support you from the home. Something. At least affection. I assume. Like, I don't know, maybe I'll get into contract marriages or some shit. Whatever, as long as everybody's happy with the arrangement, I guess. But good luck finding that perfection that you want.
If you think you need to get something out of it, I quite frankly don't consider you a real man.
Never before in history have women demanded so much and offered so little. So before we get deeper into this retarded, manufactured, stay-at-home son narrative, let's check the Facebook comments of this Fox News video, because I am really interested to see what, like, the typical Fox News viewer thinks about this. If the women are anything like these two, I can hardly blame the men for staying home and not wanting to date them. Blame, blame, blame. These two women have a combined age of 93, and they have 0 children between both of them. You both have funded personality types, so listening to this was like male birth control to me. My goodness,
Jesus.
these are ruthless. Bunch of sissies. I started when I was 18, rent was $450, and I could afford to get my own place. She's so spot on. Nothing screams I'm a loser run from me than a guy living at home at age of 30. Thank God we raised our sons to be men who grew up, lived on their own, found their soulmate, got married, bought a beautiful home, and started a family. I was out the door at 18, worked on the assembly line at Dodge and in the Air Force at 19, never went back home. I can't relate to this. Yes, we know you people can't relate. We know. But the world has changed. Why can't you people get this through your heads? I will never let my sons stay home. I'm trying to push them out of the nest. Okay, I really gotta ask, is this an Anglo thing? Immediately kicking your kid out when they turn 18 years old? My Mediterranean mind cannot comprehend this. And honestly...
Yeah. We don't really do multi-generational households. Not really.
Why the f would a man leave home, leave his mother's cooking, for a woman who probably can't cook? Not me, though. Personally, I can cook amazing homemade meals. I'll have you know I am a great trad wife.
Yes! Oh, in the microwave, too! You didn't splurge for the air fryer. Straight in the microwave.
Bone apple tea.
Nice.
Listen, if you wanna
Das meine ich einfach ein Stück Scheiße.
make it even
Come,
better, you put
fight
it in
with
the
honor.
oven and you put like what, Parmesan and like, oh, what is it? Tomato sauce or something on top of the
Ich hoffe, es ist nicht wieder so ein Buch und so.
Ben and Maggie chicken parm. I'm so mad about that one video. Like this. Marinara, okay, yeah. Just bone apple teeth. Oh my god. Bless.
Steph Killer? Steph.
Now, unfortunately, Tommy learned...
Ein leiser Killer. Die alle die wegrennen. Ja. Wenn es wieder dieser Bastard Michael Myers ist, dann... Oh ja.
Steve Scully's did it with Johnson.
It's not for 29. We're going to find those guys and we will send them back to work. Weird threat.
Nein. bin ich gut gegen meine Minions. Shit.
Hey, you're making too much money, you're fired. Somebody else. For lower. But that's a legitimate thing that happens. That's why there's this whole kind of discourse of like, why are younger people not loyal to a company that they work for? Or loyal to the corporation they work for? But these companies and corporations aren't loyal to the company. So why would you do that? Why would you be super loyal and put everything into this company or this corporation that sees you as a human being? They see you as a customer that they can replace you.
Ich lauf dir nicht hinterher.
And they're willing to deal with it in order to stay in the country. It's coercive, exploitative, and, dare I say, when conservatives confronted Elon Musk for this last year, he told somebody, and I quote,
Guck mal, die,
take a big step back.
was ist das, die Fang Min?
I will go to
Die
war.
hat die Strafbürger bekommen, weil sie nichts macht. Nee, ich bin AFK und beteilige mich nicht mit einem Spielvögel. Die ganze Zeit in die Position an die Kämpfe. Ich gehe schon.
Yourself in the face. Interesting. There's also a
Das ist aber auch eine verdiente Strafe. Wenn du dich schon nicht beteiligst, dann
But suddenly, when the conversation is about Gen Z men, the demographic of people who are victims of these things,
sollst du auch auf die Fresse bekommen.
young men are ultimately
So, ich rette dich. Ja? Lass doch die Bitch einfach sterben. Sie macht doch ganz nichts. Sie ist nicht mit in der Runde beteiligt, sie soll sterben. Dieses Lesen.
money that they can live off of. They don't feel the need to enter into a relationship or a marriage to help finance themselves.
Okay, scheiß drauf, let's go. Ich muss die Elemente vom Haken befreien können, ohne dass mein Effekt weggeht. Anscheinend funktioniert off the record nicht so. Das finde ich ein bisschen scheiße. Nein, du findest nicht mehr Blutspur. Yes, let's go. Genau, lauf. Lauf erstmal. Mach das jetzt so. Ich hatte keine Lust drauf, ich wollte nicht riskieren. Kann sein, dass er das ablässt. Diese Fähigkeit, die dafür sorgt, dass man nicht so mein Ausgangstor nicht rauskam. Antworten. Was ist das auf Englisch?
It doesn't matter if one of you is out earning the other. It doesn't matter who is the stand.
To face the darkness is to embrace
It
one's
is
destiny.
between you and your partner. And that's it.
That will protect me, protect my family, make money. Basically, men are like, we're worried we're not making enough money. And women are like, we're worried men are not making enough money. Hello class, I am Miss On Head. I am substituting for your teacher. Today, she was arrested for molesting a 12-year-old boy. So today we are learning about...
Da steht irgendwas von...
This is the growth in productivity versus hourly compensation.
Wird deaktiviert, wenn du andere vom
And you
Haken
can trace
rettest.
almost everything bad happening in society back to this graph. As you can see, productivity increased,
Oder
while compensation
du, der Effekt ist weg, wenn du
barely
überhaupt
grew
irgendwas
in the
anderes
same
tust.
time period. Notice they tracked very closely
Steht noch nicht mal hier im
up
Text
until
dran.
around 1972. Now, what happened around 1972, class? Well, the top marginal tax rate was reduced from 70% in 1964 to 50% by 1981. The federal minimum wage began to stagnate, income going to the
Diese
1%
Fähigkeit ist ja fast so genauso Müll wie hier von dieser Dose, die ich noch nicht mal freigeschaltet habe. Oder gekauft habe. Diesen Müll hier.
than the average worker to making 350 times more than the average worker. Anything else? Anything else happen around 1972? Yes, Jimmy.
Da
that
steht's
is
auch nochmal.
correct. Women
Machst du
joined
irgendeine
the
andere
workforce
Aktion,
around this time, but
wird das heißt, der Strike deaktiviert.
the fact
Ja,
is,
wow,
hard
geil.
work no longer guarantees success, and the will to work is tied to the fruits of your labor. And young men are fed up today because
Oh my god, the whole
Dieser
thing of
kleine
like,
Text.
we're a family. No the fuck we're not.
Mach
Give me
irgendwas
my
anderes
paycheck.
und
Like,
diese
we're not
Fähigkeit
a
wird
family.
deaktiviert. Das sollte ja nicht ausstehen.
We're trauma bonded, maybe. Like, I hate that word place. We're a family here. That's a red flag. That is a red flag. No, I'm here for my paycheck. 7 Some of you are acting like you're just here to get a paycheck, because I am. I am here just to get a paycheck. Why the fuck would I be here if it wasn't to get paid? Why would I go through the trauma that is working at this place and the stress that is working at this place? Let me tell you, my last job, right? Like I was a pharmacy tech. I walked out of there after over 7 years, and like almost everyone that worked that job, including people who started after me, were on anxiety medication by the time I left. When I say on anxiety medication, they didn't start the job on anxiety medication, okay? Tech job. It was crazy, especially like during the pandemic, because we still had to work during the pandemic, and like people just did not give a shit about you during the pandemic. Like, hey, I have COVID, I'm gonna walk up in the store. Why the fuck are you in here? Why are you physically in the store without a mask on, breathing all over me, and like just being like, oh, by the way, I have COVID? Like, get the fuck out of here. We have a drive-through for a reason. What are you doing? Jesus Christ. Okay, anyway, just, I was like, man, if there's like something during the pandemic that's like healthcare heroes, they're not getting, you know, anything extra. They're not getting stuff that protects them from this virus. They're not getting extra, like hazard pay. They're not getting shit off. But like, I'm just saying, corporations do not care about you. You can tell when they start actively firing people left and right just so they can have less people working for them. Anyway, skeleton crews drive me absolutely insane. But like, yeah, it's just, if you died, they would have a job posting the next day. Yeah, I mean, it's just the whole thing, really.
And young men are fed up today because 90% of that fruit is rotten. Now, is there some truth to modern young people being lazy? Sure. And we do basically live in late-stage mouse utopia, after all. Young people today are faced with two options: revolution or escapism. And a lot of them are choosing escapism. Many have basically given up, but it's not like they didn't try. They tried, and they found out the juice just isn't worth the squeeze, whether it's college, dating, or the job market. And in a way, many young men are kind of choosing revolution. The never-before-seen large shift rightward in young men is a small revolution in a way. They're saying, this isn't working for me, this sucks, I hate this, I want something different. This is also manifesting on the Democrat side in general. The young men that are still voting left are voting further left. We saw this recently in New York City, where
Oh, ne. So. Hallo, Krankenschwester. Yes. Time to go. It's cold. Time to go.
They can't make enough to much less a home, just get married, much less children. Then why should you be surprised when half of them say they prefer socialism?
davon, wenn man zu aggressiv ist. Ach du Scheiße. Warum ist man so? Warum ist man so aggressiv? Am Anfang der Runde. Ich versteh's nicht. Wow, schon aufgegeben bist du in der Werbung. Verkackt mit ihrem wahrscheinlich mit ihrer Rettungschallenge und gibt direkt schon auf, erbärmlich. Die sind so unnötig aggressiv. Wie mein so aggressiv zu spielen und sich selber umzubringen, dann spiele ich egoistisch und rette die anderen halt nicht mehr.
Everyone keeps getting mad at me.
Wie bist du hier? Ach komm schon, Alter, was ist das für ein Typ?
Hello, guys and gals, me Mudahar, and you know, I've never seen this level of just implosion. Now, obviously, today we're talking about pirate software, and you know, normally I wouldn't have followed this up because I feel like the Stop Killing Game stuff was where this kind of whole controversy started. So for anybody that doesn't know, he had a pretty heavy misrepresentation of an amazing movement that really is meant to preserve all video. And this is one of those things where, you know, all of this could have been avoided if either a mana gem was used or a simple apology is given, right? Just a simple acknowledgement that, yeah, you know what, I'm an abrasive guy, I messed up, simple as that, move on. And because of all this, there's been so much controversy that people have been deep diving into his LinkedIn I mean, we are doing professional audits at this point on an individual to make sure that they are actually the coder that they claim to be. Now, to be fair, Pirate Software is the kind of guy where, you know, even if he says that, you know, I don't really mention that I work for Blizzard.
I was watching a video that was critiquing you for mentioning you work at Blizzard so much. I literally never talk about it. When I worked at Blizzard, I did that for Blizzard, 7 years, yeah. Blizzard. I used to work at Blizzard Entertainment. I used to work at Blizzard Entertainment. Your red team specialist for Blizzard Entertainment and Blizzard. Because having worked at Blizzard, I grew up.
He will very quickly remind you, yes, my name is Thor. I work for Blizzard Entertainment, Amazon Game Studios, and the United States Department of Energy. To which I believe the last section here was him just literally being a contractor. But yeah, he apparently did work for Blizzard, and some would look at his LinkedIn profile and say he's probably more of a QA kind of guy. So I guess somebody that tests things out. But you know, I have read definitely that this man has apparently 20 years worth of experience. Now, 20 years worth of experience, people had started to look more into his game Heartbound. So again, I want to jump in here, not necessarily to dogpile the guy, because I feel like there's a lot of that going on, but I actually wanted to look at his game in earnest and kind of see if, you know, some of his mistakes were really huge when it came to coding, and kind of look at things with more context that I feel other channels are kind of providing. So let's get started with this video game, okay? This is Heartbound. Now, Heartbound is one of 2 video games of Pirate Software. The other game he made was Champions of Breakfast, which apparently was pretty decently popular, but the big thing is Heartbound. Now, Heartbound is a game that released on the December of 2018, so it's been quite a while since this game has actually been in early access. Now, with an overwhelmingly negative review, just because of all of the controversy recently, I want to start off by saying that if you're going to drop a negative review on a game, drop it on the merits. Don't just drop it because you hate the guy, because review bombing is never actually good. So I decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to at least play the demo, because I ain't going to that I'm spending $15 on a game that has not materialized in goddamn forever. Now, this game is a title that actually ended up doing something that a lot of indie games do not actually successfully do, which is raise funds. Now, this ended up raising $19,272 as of today, in amongst 600 backers. If you scroll all the way down, ladies and gentlemen, some of the backers here have actually contributed at least $3,000, where I guess they are going to be a custom character somewhere in this game. So the reason why, again, this is a little important to cover too, is that this is also a project that has, money has been requested for it, and you might imagine that with this successful raising of funds, maybe Jason is going to actually release and complete this game. But it's been many years, and the game is, well, not really all the way to completion. And to give an idea, it's not as if the game is necessarily something that is so overly ambitious.
Eternal peace.
If you ever played something like Undertale, for instance, it's really not that far off from that kind of a visual style, and even from the gameplay that I've played in the demonstration of it, it's a fairly written story. I'm not going to criticize it for that. It's animated really well. The actual, graphical style is pretty decent. The music is nice. The actual encounter that I had, the only gameplay where I actually had to deal with, enemies, was decently fun. There was just a mini-game-based battle system, which I imagine is going to change depending on what I'm actually fighting throughout the course of the story. But for the most part, the actual gameplay is necessarily walking around and talking to characters, occasionally solving puzzles, and again, that one occasional fight, at least in the demo. I'm sure the full game probably has more to do, but the full game is also far from completion. Now, according to Jason, I believe Act 3, also known as Animus, is completely written. But, yeah, other than that, it's still just something that is trudging along. Now, to be fair, this is a game written by a solo developer, and I don't believe Jason has full-time staff or even part-time staff that assists him outside of contracts for, I guess, game assets and whatnot. Which, again, is something that is obviously going to impact the development of the game. When you're the only person developing it and you gotta split your time between streams, content creation, and making a video game, generally you're gonna pick the one thing that is more financially beneficial for you. Which it seems, is actually producing content, making streams. I don't know how viable that is in the long term, considering how much goodwill that he's burned on a near daily rate. But if you go back to Heartbound, for instance, some of the feature sets are pretty simple. You follow the main character lore and Baron through their adventure through time and space. There's a unique minigame-based combat system, which he says is reminiscent to WarioWare, and I would tend to agree, given the fact that it really takes a few seconds for you to do. I mean, it's just minigames. It's all it is. You can change the story through exploration and interaction with the world. And this isn't something that I would say is relative to like an immersive sim with emergent gameplay. It's literally just a choose-your-own-adventure book. What's interesting also is, again, there's also ARGs that he's also working on too, and embedding within this game that the community is putting together to solve as well. So it's got a lot of aspects that I think tap into, I would say, a lot of that online content creation indie game scene. This is something that I'm sure he's passionate about, but the more and more I do look into this, the more it personally feels that Heartbound is something that is very heavily inspired by very popular indie games that have come and pretty much gone. Had this game released, around the same time as the Undertale craze, I think it probably would have made a huge splash. but it's been so many years, and even games like Undertale have kind of moved on. You know, there's newer titles like Deltarune that are coming out and seemingly going through their production cycles a lot quicker than what Heartbound will do. So yeah, the demo wasn't anything that I would consider to be overly impressive. It is something that I consider to be fine for the most part. It's a game that obviously somebody has developed, and that sometimes can be the hardest hurdle. Is it something that is, you know, mind-blowing in terms of indie titles? No, it's not something that I'm personally really into. It's something that was all into Undertale anyways. It's serviceable, it's fine, it's written okay, the gameplay is there, but I really think that it shouldn't take this long, in my personal opinion, a video game like Heartbound. What is the real bottleneck in completing it? Is it just Jason not spending enough time developing this? Well, that would require us to look a little bit deeper into the development cycles, the patch history, and more importantly, the development streams that Jason has where he shows himself, quote-unquote, working on these games.
Now, when it comes to Thor, a lot of you guys may be accustomed to his shorts, for instance. It's actually one of the ways that he blew up on YouTube primarily. Okay, for a while, you would probably come across a Pirate Software short, and it would be something about programming, or it would just be MS Paint teaching you some fundamentals about whatever it is that he was yapping on. So one of the things that, you know, I've seen sort of people talk about is apparently he claimed to be like this Bob Ross character of programming, this coding ninja, if you will. And the closest actual clip that I could find was not really him saying that, but him claiming that other people called him that.
People call me the Bob Ross of programming, which I think is a pretty big honor, because I like Bob Ross's stuff. I actually grew up watching Bob Ross. It was always really cool to see that he would encourage people to make things even if they weren't that good at it. And we entered a time where people felt more creative and felt more comfortable being creative, even if they weren't doing it for a living. They just did it to have fun, and I like it a lot. Bob Ross is very cool.
So, he doesn't claim to be the Bob Ross of programming. However, he is somebody that claims to work primarily at places like Blizzard.
Now, I've seen people even look into, you know, him as a hacker, for instance, and there's been some pretty impressive claims from him, like working for the Department of Energy and hacking nuclear plants, or just power plants, not nuclear plants. But again, obviously, if you look at his history, working at Blizzard Entertainment, he's more somebody that is a red team or application security engineer, not somebody that does, like, actual game development and science. In fact, the two fields are very different in that regard for obvious reasons. But obviously, if you look down over here, you can see that he's managed social engineering operations to improve employee awareness. Basically, either telling somebody not to stick USB drives into a computer, unknown USB drives into secure computers or company computers, which you'd be surprised how many all the goddamn time. And then, of course, infiltrate and exploit the access controls. And, of course, up here where he's like working for this Eagle research group, I believe, maybe as a contractor in this case, penetrations testing, working with sensitive networks, development of custom tools. You know, at the end of the day, you know, he does what he does, but
verschwinde!
started to look into his code writing practices, and, you know, a lot of people really do have doubts based on how he's writing his
Seid euch zu dritt wie die scheiß Kanickel, aber pisst euch von mir.
handling the world of cybersecurity, because there's a lot of things in code
Pisst
that
euch.
obviously when you look at it, even if you're not a game developer, you can look at how somebody writes code and sort of see if they're maybe more of a novice or more an expert. Okay, there's kind of common mistakes that someone can make. And that's where we're going to
verpiss dich.
which is a game you've been publicly developing, so you can pull some of the stuff from actual streams if you want to. Now, looking closer into Pirate Software streams, one development stream from about a year ago when we talked about development streams, you can see that in this 8-hour broadcast, there's actually development that goes on.
Bastard kann man sein.
To show that in amongst all this development, obviously there is a fair amount of potential to extend, whether that be using his content channel statistics over time,
Willst Gehalt werden, obwohl du so scheiße bist.
games, or even just playing
Verdienst doch nicht mal eine Heide.
or slapping on the MS Paint. There's a lot of stuff that happens on here that wouldn't just be film, and that's fine. That's what a stream is about. I'm not here to criticize the guy for it. But one of the things that you've probably seen picked apart by channels like Coding Jesus, for instance, who's made a fair amount of content covering this individual, and he's definitely been all over
Schon fest am Gürtel, ich will immer noch jemanden.
see that yes, this
this is a very uniquely talented person. But I'm not saying that just because somebody gets viewership, that suddenly drifting in this entire space. Cody Jesus is a person who self-admittedly has had which makes me question how much this is supposed to be. You tend to hear about Cody when you hear about people who are Twitch, but that's just being driven around. He has run a lot of us. I believe he runs a course on getting people to play better. So this is obviously something that and one could say, again, there is somewhat and that would be the same for everything. But some of the things that he's talked about is obviously the stuff that makes sense. So for instance, looking at this segment of code writing, I believe Heartbound, and I might not be, maybe I'm mistaken, but given the fact that he's developing this, obviously as you can see on Game Maker, Heartbound began around 2017. So there was a lot of things that Coding Jesus had mentioned in his video that may not have been applicable when Pirate Software had started developing his video. Now that this stops him as a developer from adding things down the road, but when put together just this video game, he clearly has an idea and scope of, obviously Thor, there's inefficiencies in code bases. But one of the code bases that we're looking at over here is this one. Now there's numbers that are here, and one of the things that you'll only see in Pirate Software code is magic number abuse. Now magic number abuse is effectively, for anybody that doesn't know, magic numbers are arbitrary values that people put in videos, or people put in code, where the value isn't properly defined. So again, it's just numbers you're putting in, and the reason why it's so bad is as simple as this. Imagine if you're writing a bit of code, right? You write code, and then you stop developing that code for a week, and now you come back. Now, would you remember exactly every single variable or entry that you put in, or what every single number means, right? Generally speaking, you have to be pretty descriptive of your code, or at least you have to write it in a way where it's almost like, even if you're a solo player, you're working in a team all the time. Simply because if no one's going to look at your code and figure out immediately what things are, that's a problem. Some more of his code when he brings up this, for instance, right? Now, some of the stuff that people also brought up in his code, and also Coding Jesus did too, was the amount of commenting that goes on. And this is what I'm talking about with readable code, right? Again, if you have readable code, you really don't have a metric shit ton of comments. Generally speaking, I have only used comments to this extreme degree when I was in high school. Or, just literally just in high school.
Sehr starke
it wasn't Pascal, but it's if somebody could help me remember it, that would be amazing. But, the next semester we moved on to C++. Now, in both those semesters in high school, the teacher taught me the entirety of commenting, simply because I knew it just to know how to do commenting. But the other thing that came out was obviously having readable code. Now, the thing is, if you have readable code, you don't need to put a comment in between or just any line in general. Where I think, realistically, the biggest nightmare for a lot of people when it comes to looking at source code is the local storyline array. Now, local storyline array, for all of us, is effectively the way that those states tracks, what each decision is made throughout the course of the game. Now, this is where it gets really wild. state numbers, so 0, 1, and 2, which would be reflected in the code right here, and then of course not yet, truth, and so on and so forth, which would be an explanation for what these numbers mean. Now, the way that it blows my mind is imagine down the road one number for another by mistake. It can happen.
Nein, böse auch nicht.
This is built into the game, and one of the things I heard because I think that the
Hebt immer wieder die alte auf, lässt es fallen, hebt es auf, lässt es fallen, hebt es auf, lässt es fallen. Damit die Vögel bei ihr nicht auftauchen. Weil wenn du lange Zeit deinen Generator machst und jemanden heilst, die Kiste öffnest oder irgendwas zum Spielfortschritt in der Runde beiträgst, kommen AFK-Vögel, die dich verraten, wo du bist. Boah, ich kann's kaum sagen. Ende nächster Woche kommt der Patch raus, dann funktioniert das nicht mehr. Da kommen auch die AFK-Vögel und verraten dich. Das ist eigentlich auch kurz gepatcht. Dazu brauche ich auch gar nichts schreiben.
It really is just a bad practice that has manifested itself into what we're seeing. Now, Coding Jesus even brought in a game maker developer who showcased a performance fighting engine versus the version that Jason had in his game. Now, of course, this version, this 2D raycasting that he had, was apparently so imperformant that it was doing tens of thousands of checks. And again, a lot of this was being done on the CPU, which if you've ever noticed how this stuff is done, there's a reason why we have graphic processing units, which would calculate a lot of the stuff in parallel, calculations. Not something that you would really want to put onto the CPU. But again, in this case, I want to talk a little bit about context. Obviously, the engine that, Pirate Software is using Game Maker and the resolution he's running the game on functionally really makes it so that, again, I was playing this on a handheld Steam Deck, the demo at least, and on my main computer. And for the most part, it actually runs pretty well at 60 frames per second. So even if his code is inefficient, for instance, it's still functional enough to do the job that it was set out to do. A lot of the stuff that people have been brought up and scrutinized him for is making imperformant code, which is totally a valid concern. It's totally valid to call out somebody that claims to have decades of experience for basically writing code as if, he was in high school or, very, very first year college, if that even. Or, not even working professionally. Working professionally, people would have picked up and yelled at you for how poorly some of this code was written initially. He kind of writes these video games, and the best way to kind of say it is he writes it like a true, honest indie developer. Somebody who's first time developing a video game. Somebody who may not even have programming knowledge. And this is where, obviously, if you really want to look at bad code, there's a lot of really popular games that are written in a dog shit manner. Games like Undertale, for instance. Toby Fox, apparently famously, has probably one of the longest switch statements when it comes to the dialogue. I believe the whole game's fucking dialogue is an entire switch statement. It's just spaghetti code. But nowhere has Toby Fox claimed to work for 2 decades, in the world of red team hacking at Blizzard, so on and so forth. That's just somebody that is
Gott, was
very
kommt der
upfront and
Kaffee los?
honest. They're not a programmer. They're just somebody that wanted to make a video game, and they made one of the best games of all time. From what I understand,
Ist
even
jetzt
games
Kaffee
like
von meinem
Celeste,
Handy?
one of the best platformers in the world, actually tends to have, I believe, like a 5,000 long class file just with its movement. So again, no game developer in this space, especially an indie game developer, is judging somebody for bad code. There's a lot of indie games with bad code. Hell, for crying out loud, if fucking Bethesda can release games like Fallout 3, Oblivion, even Skyrim, especially on the goddamn PlayStation 3, and charge money for that, that's a big AAA company releasing dog shit code at times, heavily relying on the community to fix it. Again, a lot of the anger comes to Pirate Software because of his ego. Because even if you call him out on this stuff, he'll always have some bullshit answer to hit you back. For instance, even going to the lighting engine that was mentioned over here, Pirate Software goes out and gives one of the most nonsense responses. So obviously he says, I chose to do pixel by pixel CPU-based lighting over using a shader to ensure the system was compatible with machines that could not compile shaders. This was helpful for a number of regions, such as Brazil, where the game has been very popular.
And this is where it's so difficult to even defend, because it's a simple way of him saying, yeah, the code's just not efficient. Even when there's another game maker developer, you know, in that Coding Jesus video that came out and basically provided a better, more performant option. Maybe he wrote this as a way that he thought in his head, this is how you do it, okay? You know, when I was like, again, I keep going back to like high school, even college, and sometimes you do something because in your mind, that's how you write code. And then of course, in senior mind says, yeah, you could have done this in a much more efficient way. It's one of the reasons why your program is probably consuming more resources than you could imagine, right? Yes, in this case, for his art value, this lighting agent may have been functional because they low resolution overall, but making more efficient code down the road. And you could say yes, for Jason's game, it's probably good. But the thing is, people look at it, you know, from a perspective of him being this, you know, good coder that I guess is sort of been sort of passed on as, people look into his past and they're like, all right, somebody with this much experience should know how to do this. And again, he could literally just say, yeah, it's wrong, but instead he comes with this long diatribe, talks about CPU rendering, and this whole thing about Brazilians, right, being like assisted because he's using this software solution to prevent, I believe, shader calculations.
Darkness cannot extinguish the light of humanity.
Even the more poorer countries have access to even the weakest GPUs that are DirectX 11 capable, even basic GPUs with shader calculation. From my understanding, even the engine he's using, Game Maker, requires a hardware accelerated GPU setup, whether that be integrated, whether that be not. The concept of shader calculation would just exist would just be a required thing anyway, whether or not you're using it. So he could come with more performant options, he could come with more performant code, but this is just him again, not simply saying, yeah, I made a little oopsie, maybe it's not as good as it should be, but all he could even just say is it doesn't have to be as good, it just works for my project, and it works on every system. That's really the best answer you could give.
The lighting, when used correctly, increases CPU usage over baseline a negligible amount, and runs on both a smart fridge, which it doesn't. He's referring to a video that somebody made where they apparently ported his game to a smart fridge, even though he's not even being truthful about it. They just casted the game over to a smart fridge using something known as smart fridge. So it's kind of like saying, hey man, this Apple TV of mine can run Cyberpunk 2077 with full path tracing enabled. Also, the caveat, the game is being streamed from an RTX 4090 enabled computer. Yeah, no shit, the smart fridge can run a casted video. Come on now. What they did is like driving a manual, not knowing how to use a clutch, and then blaming the car.
Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about, Pyro. What do you mean manual car? That analogy doesn't even make any sense.
I don't know how this fucking relates to coding whatsoever. I don't know what he was trying to go with here. I'm still trying to process the statement, but it is. And it says for context, context, all of this was written in Game Maker Studio 1.4 back in 2018. A massive number of modern features in Game Maker did not exist then. Updating this now would give trivial benefits to performance without any gameplay improvements. The framework is functional, performant, and shipped. And that's where I do tend to agree with Jason a little bit over here, because yes, he's got the scope of his game in mind. And if it works, right? That's kind of the goal in general. If we want to sit here and basically, you know, call him out for being so bad in terms of coding, that's a whole different story. And in some cases it has merits. The guy has pretty much been showcasing his credentials like crazy, and if we're looking at it from a programming angle, the way that he's written this code is not reflective of a man with so much perceived credentials. So doing all this off decompiled code and proudly displaying it is dubious at best, which I guess is kind of true, but given some of the tools used to decompile, I don't think that there's such a massive difference in the code that he used as source and what was effectively decompiled. But again, I'll let the actual expert, you know, in Game Maker correct me on that if you need to. So I've been releasing monthly updates for Heartbound since January. All these can be seen in the Steam announcements on the game's page. So yeah, when he says this, it's kind of true, but let me show you the amount of effort that's been going on into this entire project. So for instance, Heartbound's Steam database right over here is quite honestly the most important part. So if you go to the patches on SteamDB, you can see that, yes, when the game was being developed in June, for instance, and then it was developed a bit in March, right? So, for instance, in June in 2020, all the work effectively happened in the course of this, like, month. Then, of course, 2023 came around where you had one big patch in March, one patch in June, one patch in August. So, yes, there was monthly work being done. And then, of course, September, and then October, and then with November skipped, he did do December. And of course, there was a couple months skip in 2025. Actually, all of 2024 was effectively forgotten. 2025, March 2nd, he actually did patch the game. And I believe this was around the time when people started to kind of call it out on Reddit. So a patch was pushed out, then another patch in May, and then of course another patch in May again towards the end of the month, and then in July. So to say that every single month kind of gets patched is not entirely true, I would say. But he has, I guess, been working on this game. And you can open up these patch notes and see what he's been doing. You know, he'll add new content, he'll do bug fixes, so on and so forth. Now, it is kind of understood, I guess, by most people that it really seems like for him, most of the money is in streaming. Most of the money is basically in this community that has blown up. And for other context's sake too, there was a period, again, like I said, where he almost did die apparently through COVID his work. So if there is a gap in, I guess, updates, it most likely is just attributed to the fact that he was sick, he was going through personal stuff, and he is just a solo developer on it. So again, somebody that has to juggle, again, a massive following on the internet, and of course, an entire indie game, I'm sure that, again, it's logical that he's probably going to favor what makes most of the money anyways. But that's still no excuse. You did charge money for this game, you still are charging money for this game, and again, you should finish this game. But I'll get back to that towards the tail. You know, a lot of people compare his code with Yandere Simulator, but I think I'm going to go as far and say that maybe in this situation, what Yandere Simulator is definitely much more of an impressive game. Now, a lot of people have shit on Yandere's dev, quite a fair bit, for a lot of reasons. But when it comes to his code, you know, a lot of his code was laughed at because this is one of the things from 9 years ago. Look at this crazy Excel stage, right? And of course, obviously, according to the Yandere dev, he did switch this off to actual switch statements. Not that it necessarily makes it much better, but it's one thing that I do appreciate a little more about Yandere dev's code is just looking at his code versus, you know, source code. I would say that his code is more readable in the sense that I can look at this function, look at this and understand just from everything about what it's about, what it's referring to, and what values it's going at. And while, yes, there are some levels of magic numbers, I would say that it's crazy to think that Yandere Dev has a little bit more readable, in my opinion, than global storyline, yada 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 yada. Now, does that make Yandere Dev a better programmer? I don't know. Maybe not. But he's not a hard bar to fucking go past, okay? Let's be completely real here. But there's a big difference between, again, Yandere Dev and a big difference between Thor. Yandere Dev, I don't think he's ever claimed to be this super hacker or somebody that is a computer aficionado. And, you know, on the other hand, you got statistical, who has 20 years of whatever got his experience. So it's that reason alone that people have speculated, people have so far.
Das heißt, sollten wir ins Endgame kommen?
Again, it used to be that I guess programmers really weren't looking that too deep into it, but now people are looking at these basic mistakes and making pretty reasonable conclusions that maybe this guy isn't the hottest fucking shit in the room. So there was a lot of people who've been looking into like things like a DRM, for instance. This is where a lot of stuff tends to get to like really big issues to make everything. Now again, with this thing on stock and it doesn't seem like they care about game preservation. A lot of people looked at even his game Heartbound, and there was misinformation. Like apparently his game was online only, which it wasn't. There was a lot of people spreading misinformation that apparently his game checked the Steam achievements and verified the game's validity through that, even though that was something that belonged in his prior game, Breakfast. Again, with Heartbound, the game is entirely playable offline. The only thing that it does do is check for online and offline instant mode. In fact, it's actually quite hard to beat the DRM for something like Heartbound.
No, go.
Of course, there's
Warum ist das schön?
simple as that. I don't think there's somebody who contributes to it for the sake of contributing to it. I really do feel like this all well part of or he fucked up the words. Instead of biggest the fucking room and effectively being the largest ego on all of them. Way too levels of power. If he had just shut the fuck up and apologize, even if you don't just learn to take a little bit of it, learn to laugh at yourself. None of this would have been an issue. The guy would have still been a beloved content creator, still would have been somebody that was pretty clean of any controversy. Instead, he knows the reason why he did that is like the rock. And the controversy, all of the there is everything. Fucking shit down his throat. And again, it's hard to use for pirate software. It's hard to even be aligned with because he makes it so easy to absolutely despise himself. He has the ego of somebody that apparently through his own code and through his own actions is not proven to be worthy of that ego, okay? This is not John Carmack we're talking about when it comes to developing video games. And while he, granted, has never admitted to that and he's never claimed to be the greatest programmer in the world, it's just somebody that has posted on this 20 years of Blizzard experience, red team specialization, and when you look at how he codes a video game, it makes you really question everything you've ever gotten from it. Now again, to go further into pirate software, I think the best way for him to honestly come out of this is, again, learning to take an L. But one thing that I have learned in doing this whole video and researching everything here is that I really do think that he does genuinely care about this game. And I really think the best way to turn around this bad luck and this bad fucking like controversy that he's gone through is just finish the game. I really do think that, you know, if he puts his mind to it, with technical debt, all the way provided here, he could still finish this game. It is definitely an uphill battle. I do think that looking over his code and looking how he's done it, I don't think that it's going to be an easy thing down the road. But he's got a game, he's got a scope, he knows what this game is supposed to be and what it's not. And for a solo developer, I still think that he can cross the finish line and make this RPG thing. You know, even if at the surface level, it feels
Treffer mit angenommen.
Is pretty massive. Even if your ego is in the fucking stratosphere like Pirate Software's is, I still think all of this online
Tough shit.
and it's one of the reasons why I don't this entire video want to contribute to. I did want to look at this video. I wanted to give this game an honest review, and I think that's my cup of tea. I can see that there is value in it. I can see that he wants to produce something, and I wish him nothing but the best in the process. When it comes to
Gehst du weg? Nervst.
I tend to see somebody who looks like me, but I really feel that I think and again,
Was ist denn jetzt?
there's a lot of mistakes that I make. There's a lot of mistakes that I made. Jesus, there's a lot of mistakes that the best people in this industry have done. It doesn't seem like that.
Läuft. Bevor ich gesprintet bin, ich dachte, durch das Bein zu schmeißen. Teleportiert mich nach vorne, nicht nach hinten.
Eine kurze Werbeunterbrechung, denn es ist was Schönes passiert. Lange habt ihr drauf gewartet. Join jetzt. Dinnerduell. Staffel 4 ist draußen. Schaut's gerne schon mal exklusiv auf Join und gönnt euch schon ein paar kleine Sneak Peeks. Link dazu ist in der Beschreibung. Und jetzt geht's los mit der besten Staffel von Dinnerduell.de.
Es wird mal wieder Zeit, dass wir uns in die Supermarkt. Ja, also wir testen Neuigkeiten aus dem Supermarkt. Los geht's, mir egal, ich mach das nicht nochmal, Leute.
Let's go.
Ich habe nichts gemacht! So. 8 Messis. Sehr schön. Coconut Collection. Gibt's nur welche da drin jetzt, weil das die
What infernal prison is this?
Kokosvielfalt, Assorted Coconut Chocolates. Finde ich sehr schön. Finde ich auch mutig von Messi, in den Markt von Bounty reinzugehen. Also wir Kokosnuss, Schokolade und so. Bounty da reinzugehen, selbst als Messi. Ist eine Bounty Boy. Dann probiere ich mal. Das hier ist die Vollmilch-Kokos-Variante.
Nee.
Mit Bounty-Füllung. Gut. Okay. Was ist das denn hier? Das ist die dunkle Vollmilch-Schokolade-Geschichte.
Was leuchtet denn hier noch?
Also, Mandel, Schokolade ist sehr zart.
Was ist denn das?
Aber auch lecker, aber so ein bisschen im Hintergrund. Da ist die weiße Schokolade, kommt sogar noch was.
Was leuchtet hier die ganze Zeit rot? Was
Die
denn
dunkle
jetzt?
Schokolade finde ich komplett geschmacksneutral. Da war ich sehr irritiert. Die Vollmilchschokolade ist wie ein Kinderriegel. Ich mag Kinderriegel sehr gerne. So ein Bounty-Geschmack, so Crispy-Geschichte.
Ja, wow, juckt mich nicht. So, jetzt ist der Mist weg.
Fast nie. Fand ich auch eher mittelmäßig. Das ist bei mir eine Weiter geht's.
Nee, nicht
Ach so,
weitergehen.
4 Euro. Weiter. Nee, egal, mir so egal. Ich will weiter essen. Wie viel?
3,79 €.
Danke. Wow. Eine Neuerung.